The knock at the door was sharp, almost surgical. Chen wiped her hands on a dish towel and opened it to find Nathan standing on the porch, crisp in his suit, phone still glowing in one hand. She felt a flicker of tension not unfamiliar. "Not unearned. You're early," she said, stepping aside. "Traffic was lighter than I expected." He moved past her, the scent of his cologne trailing behind. "Expensive. New." She watched him as he stepped into the living room, where their children were scattered across the space. Emma, curled on the armchair with her Kindle, Marcus on the floor building something complicated with Lego, and Sophie sprawled across the couch, her arms wrapped around the family dog. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. "Hey guys," Nathan said, his voice lifting in that polished dad tone that always sounded just a little too rehearsed. They responded with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Emma didn't look up. Marcus offered a half smile. Sophie ran to hug him. "You packed their bags?" Nathan asked, turning back to Maya businesslike. She nodded. "In the hallway." He didn't thank her, just walked to the front closet, grabbed the small suitcases, and handed each child theirs. Emma finally stood up. "How long are we staying at Dad's again?" she asked. 3 nights, Maya said before Nathan could. "Then back here?" Nathan smiled tight. "We'll talk about it." Emma's brows pulled together, but she didn't argue. Marcus's hands tightened around his suitcase handle. Sophie skipped ahead too. "The door? Be good," Maya said, hugging each of them, feeling them slipping away. She kissed Sophie's hair, brushed a hand over Marcus's back, then wrapped Emma in a longer, quieter embrace. "Text me," Maya whispered into her daughter's ear. "Always," Emma replied. Nathan led them out to his car, and Maya stood in the doorway long after the engine pulled away, listening to the silence stretch through the empty house. She didn't cry. Not yet. The tears would come later, alone when no one was watching. Maya's office was upstairs, tucked away from the rest of the house. It still smelled faintly of cedar from the renovation she'd done herself the previous fall. The blueprints for a boutique co-housing project were spread across her desk. She stared at them, but her focus drifted. Her mind reeled back to last week, the conversation that cracked her world open. "I don't want the kids," Nathan had said it casually, like declining an appetizer at a dinner party. Maya had stared at him across the mediation table, her pen slipping from her hand. "You what?" "It's better this way, for everyone. Let's not pretend we can co-parent when we're both so busy." "Then why ask for joint custody?" she demanded. He had smiled, cold. Optics. Now sitting in the quiet, she played the memory over and over. And then the email. The one she wasn't supposed to see. It had been a simple mistake. He'd left his laptop open at the mediation firm while Maya was gathering her things. One email still on screen. A message thread between Nathan and someone named Artoras at Judiciary, State or Us. The subject line, custody prep next phase. Maya hadn't been able to read much before the screen locked itself, but it was enough. Judge Rebecca Torres. Nathan's college ex. Suddenly, Nathan's indifference toward the kids, his suggestion to give up custody, none of it felt like apathy. It felt like strategy. He was playing the long game, making her relax, making the kids settle into routine. Then he'd strike, with the full weight of the system behind him. Maya leaned back in her chair, heart thudding. If Nathan thought she'd just sit and wait to be erased from her children's lives, he'd underestimated her. She reached for her old leather-bound notebook, the one she hadn't used in years, a relic from her journalism days. She flipped past half-filled pages of interview notes, political scandals, court records, and started a new page, Operation Truth Exposed. She wrote her children's names, underlined them. Then, in clean capital letters, "Don't lie, don't manipulate. Just reveal." If Nathan was going to show the courts a version of himself designed to win, she'd make sure their children saw who he really was. Not through sabotage, not through words, just through presence, through silence, through exposure. Let him forget to pick Marcus up from practice. Let him cancel Sophie's art class when it conflicted with a dinner date. Let him ignore Emma when she asked about a school project. She wouldn't interfere. She would just watch, document, and wait. That night, her brother Alex came by with takeout and a 6-pack. The kids were gone. Nathan was out of sight, and Maya needed someone to remind her she wasn't crazy. "You're telling me he strategically acted like he didn't want custody?" Alex said, mouth full of noodles. Yes. And you think this judge his ex isn't on it? Maya pulled up the judicial assignment roster on her screen, highlighting the upcoming dates for their case. She's not assigned yet, but she'll be. I guarantee it. He's buying time, making me think he's stepping back. Then suddenly, he'll petition for full custody. Alex leaned back. That's some real sociopath chess. It's Nathan. He knows the system. He knows how to play it. But he doesn't know our kids. Not really. She took a deep breath. I'm not going to poison them against him. I'm going to let him show them exactly who he is. And I'm going to record everything. The missed dinners, the favoritism, the coldness. Alex nodded. You sure? You don't want to go scorched earth? Because I could probably get into his email if you know. No hacking, no illegal methods. I'm not sinking to his level. I want this to stand up in court. And I want our kids to know who he is, not because I told them, but because they saw it. Alex raised his beer. To exposure by omission, to the truth, Maya said quietly, clinking bottles. As they sipped, Maya's eyes drifted to a photograph. On the shelf, the 5 of them at Cannon Beach, all wind-tossed and laughing. She would fight for that, for the love in that picture. And she would win ethically, patiently, relentlessly. She was an architect. She knew how to build strong things, and she knew how to make sure they lasted. 3 days later, the kids were home again. Maya stood at the kitchen island, chopping vegetables, when the front door creaked open. Sophie barreled in first, dragging her suitcase and stuffed unicorn. Mom, Dad let me eat candy before dinner, and we watched 2 movies in a row. Maya crouched to hug her. Wow, 2 movies? That's a serious treat. And he bought me a new doll. She talks. Behind her, Marcus came in slower, quieter. Hi, sweetie, Maya said, pulling him close. How was your weekend? Fine. Dad was busy a lot. Emma entered last. She didn't speak at first, just went to the sink and filled a glass of water. Maya waited. He left us at the house while he went out Saturday night, Emma said finally, setting the glass down. Said it was a work dinner, but he didn't come back until after midnight. Maya stilled. Did he leave you alone? No. The babysitter was there, but he didn't tell us when he'd be back. Marcus got scared when he heard the garage door and didn't know who it was. Marcus looked at the floor. Maya pressed her lips together. Thank you for telling me. She wouldn't react, wouldn't jump to accusations. She was building a record, quietly, methodically. Later that night, once the kids were in bed, Maya pulled out her notebook and recorded everything they'd said. Then she opened her email and drafted a message to Dr. Sarah Kim. Subject: Weekend follow-up. Rivera Kuldrenhi. Dr. Kim, following up on the kids' weekend with their father. Not urgent, but I believe Emma and Marcus may have experienced a situation worth noting. Would like to schedule a quick consultation, if you're available. Maya Chen stared at the cursor, debating whether to send it now or wait until morning. She clicked send. Across the hall, Emma's bedroom door creaked. Mom? Maya turned. Emma stood in the hallway, arms crossed over her chest, her expression unreadable. Can we talk? Maya nodded and led her into her room. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, fidgeting with the hem of her sweatshirt. Dad was weird this weekend, she said. Not mean, just distracted, like we were an afterthought. He kept checking his phone, left us with that babysitter twice, didn't ask about my science project, even though I reminded him. Maya sat beside her. How did that make you feel? Emma looked up, eyes dark. It made me wonder why he suddenly wants us around more. He said he didn't want custody, and now he's acting like father of the year, but only when people are watching. Maya didn't answer. She just reached out and took her daughter's hand. Are you documenting things? Like a case file? Maya hesitated. I knew it, Emma said. I saw the notebook. A smile tugged at Maya's mouth. Old habits die hard. Can I help? Maya blinked. I see things too. Things you might not notice. Emma, this isn't a game. It's going to get complicated and painful. I know, Emma said quietly, but I want to help protect Marcus and Sophie. And you. Maya wrapped her arms around her daughter and held on. Wednesday afternoon, Maya stood outside the school gym, watching parents file in for the science fair. She spotted Nathan's car across the lot, a Tesla new, sleek. He stepped out in a tailored coat and sunglasses, scanning the crowd like a politician on the campaign trail. Maya waited. When he spotted her, his smile tightened. Didn't expect to see you here, he said. Why wouldn't I be? Emma asked me to come. he chuckled. I assumed you'd be working late again. Maya didn't take the bait. She turned her attention to the gym doors. Inside, colorful tri-fold boards lined the tables. Emma's project was front and center, a detailed breakdown of soil regeneration in urban gardens. Her chart was neat, her samples clearly labeled. Looks impressive, Nathan said, feigning interest. Emma walked up, expression flat. You made it. Of course I did. Wouldn't miss my girl's big day. He touched her shoulder. She didn't flinch, but she didn't smile either. Did you bring the notebook I asked for? She said. Nathan blinked. Notebook? The one I left at your house, with my research notes. I know. I must have forgotten. Sorry, sweetheart. Emma nodded, disappointed but unsurprised. Maya stood back and watched the interaction. One missed promise, one small fracture. Later, as Nathan drifted off to schmooze with a teacher, Emma walked over to her mom. He forgot on purpose. He saw it on the counter this morning. I watched him. He just didn't care. Maya kept her face neutral. You did great today. I don't need him to clap for me anymore, Emma said. Maya felt something shift, a small tectonic movement in the foundation of her daughter's belief system. She didn't gloat. She didn't offer comfort. She simply took Emma's hand and squeezed it once. That night, Maya met with Dr. Kim. You're not the first parent I've seen outmaneuvered by charm and connections, Dr. Kim said, eyes kind but sharp. But you're one of the few who isn't trying to weaponize the kids in return. I won't turn them into pawns, even if he will. Good. Because children remember how they were treated when adults thought they weren't paying attention. Maya leaned forward. Would you be willing to formally document anything the kids report to you? Even small things? Absolutely. And I'll make a note to flag if the behavior patterns escalate. Maya nodded. She had allies. She had her notes. She had her daughter's trust. Now she just needed patience. Let Nathan believe she was still reeling. Let him grow careless. He'd reveal himself in time. Maya didn't need to destroy him. He'd do it himself. She just had to make sure someone was watching when it happened. The next weekend, Maya lingered in her driveway longer than usual after the kids climbed into Nathan's car. She kept her expression even, waving goodbye with the same warmth she always did. But inside, she was bracing for what she knew would follow. Nathan didn't disappoint. By Sunday afternoon, Emma texted, Sophie's been crying. Dad forgot her piano recital. Maya sat frozen in her office, the phone still in her hand. She knew how much that recital meant to Sophie. They'd picked out her dress together, practiced her piece every evening for 2 weeks. She resisted the impulse to call. Instead, she sent Emma a calm reply. Thank you for letting me know. I'm proud of you for looking out for her. I'll be here when you get home. And then she opened her notebook. March 2. Missed event. Sophie's piano recital, reported by Emma. Father was informed multiple times via calendar reminder and verbal conversation. No explanation offered. Result, Sophie upset, withdrawn. She added a second note for herself. Review shared calendar settings, ensure all events are being logged and time-stamped. Possibly screenshot, cross-reference Emma's school planner for independent verification. By Monday morning, Maya had already spoken with Dr. Kim again. The therapist agreed to gently ask Sophie about her weekend. Later that week, Maya received the summary. Sophie expressed disappointment and confusion about her father not coming to her recital. She repeated the phrase "he forgot me" several times. She also mentioned receiving a toy afterward, but did not associate it with a sincere apology. It was working, not in the way that made Maya feel triumphant, but in the way that confirmed what she feared. The cracks in Nathan's parenting were widening, becoming harder for even the children to ignore. Friday night dinner had become a ritual again now that the kids were with Maya more regularly during the week. She kept it simple: homemade dumplings and bok choy, Sophie's favorite. Dad says he's taking us to Sunriver over spring break, Marcus said between bites. He already booked the lodge. Maya raised an eyebrow. That's news to me. Emma didn't look up from her plate. Sophie poked at her food. He said it'd be a surprise, Marcus added. That's why he didn't tell you. Emma spoke then, more like he didn't ask. I told him I had a robotics competition that week. He didn't even check the dates. Maya's stomach tightened. He's still your dad, she said gently. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt until we know more. Emma didn't respond. After the kids went to bed, Maya sat at her desk and called Alex. I need a timeline tool, she said. One that cross-references notes, digital evidence, and calendar entries. Ideally, something that tracks behavior patterns and missed responsibilities, like a case management tool. Yes, but customized. I want it to build a behavioral log. Nothing illegal, just structured and time-stamped. Alex whistled. You're serious. He's playing the long game. So am I. Give me a week. Sunday night, Maya picked the kids up early. When Nathan handed Sophie over, he smiled in that polished way that made her skin crawl. She had a great time, he said. We went to the children's museum. Sophie clung to Maya's leg. Can I stay with you tomorrow too? Nathan's smile faltered. We've talked about this, sweetheart, he said, crouching to meet her eyes. We switch days. That's the rule. Maya placed a hand on Sophie's shoulder. We'll talk about it later, okay? Let's get you home. Nathan stood and straightened his coat. I'm filing for shared physical custody this week. Thought you should know. Maya didn't flinch. I assumed you would, he hesitated. You'll want to prepare. She nodded. I already have. In her next session with Dr. Kim, Maya brought up Marcus. He's the one I'm most worried about, she admitted. He tries so hard to stay neutral. It's tearing him up. Dr. Kim nodded. Middle children often internalize conflict. He wants peace more than anything, even if it means sacrificing his own needs. Can you keep a closer eye on him? Document any signs of emotional distress? Of course. Maya looked down. He's started getting stomach aches again, like during the first month of the separation. Dr. Kim made a note. You're doing everything right, Maya. You're protecting them by refusing to fight in front of them. That restraint is more powerful than any courtroom testimony. Maya wasn't so sure, but she nodded. She had to keep believing that ethics would win in the end. Later that evening, Emma slipped into Maya's office again. She was holding a printout. I thought you'd want this, she said. Maya took the paper. It was an email. I checked Dad's printer when we were at his place, Emma said. He left this in the tray. Maya scanned the message. It was from Diana Martinez, Nathan's associate. Subject: Ray, custody timeline adjustments, please advise confidentially. Maya looked up. Emma, how did you know to print this? Emma shrugged. I saw your face after my recital. I know something's going on. I didn't snoop. It was just there. Maya hugged her tight. This helps, but you don't have to get involved like this. I'm already involved, Emma said. We all are. I just want you to win, fairly. Maya smiled through the ache in her chest. So do I, baby. So do I. She turned back to the email, heart pounding. Diana Martinez knew something, and she was nervous, which meant the walls around Nathan's plan weren't as solid as he thought. It was time to find the cracks and let the light in. Tuesday evening, Maya arrived 10 minutes early to pick up the kids from Nathan's townhouse. The place looked more like a luxury Airbnb than a home. White leather furniture, glass-top tables, not a smudge or fingerprint in sight. It was everything Nathan presented to the world, pristine and touchable, curated. She knocked, then let herself in. He'd given her the code when they first separated, before things turned adversarial. The place was too quiet. Hello. Sophie appeared from the hallway, barefoot, hugging a blanket. Hi, baby. Where's Daddy? Still on his work call. He said we should wait in our rooms. Maya crouched, brushing a hand through Sophie's tangled hair. It smelled faintly of dry shampoo. Did you eat dinner? Not yet. Marcus said he was hungry, but Dad told him to wait. Maya's chest tightened. She stood and walked to the office door. It was cracked open. Nathan was pacing, earpiece in, gesturing toward a spreadsheet on his screen. We'll need to get Torres to push the calendar forward if we can get in front of Harrison again. The optics could complicate it. No, I'm not worried. She's not the problem. The girl's already siding with us. Maya's stomach dropped. The girl? Emma? Nathan turned then, saw her, and ended the call. You're early. I'm on time. They're hungry. He gave a tight smile. I'll feed them next time. Go ahead. Maya didn't respond. Just gathered her children, helped Marcus with his bag, and kept her arm around Sophie all the way to the car. That night, Emma was quiet, too quiet. Maya found her on the back porch, sitting under a blanket, staring out at the dark yard. You okay? Emma nodded, but didn't look away. I heard Dad on the phone, she said. He was talking about me. I think he thinks I'm siding with him. Maya sat beside her. Why would he think that? Emma hesitated. Because I told him I liked how his new place looked. I told him his car was cool. I guess I was trying to keep things easy. Sweetheart, You don't owe either of us anything. Not comfort, not performance, just truth. Emma's eyes filled. I hate that I feel like I have to pick, like I'm part of some chess game. Maya pulled her into a hug. You're not a pawn, and you're not responsible for fixing this. You just need to be you. That's more than enough. The next morning, Maya had a surprise meeting request in her inbox from Diana Martinez. Subject: off the record, Miss Chen, I believe there's something you should know. I'm risking a lot by reaching out, but I've seen things that don't sit right with me. Could we talk? Discreetly? Maya exhaled. The cracks were spreading. They met at a quiet cafe near the waterfront. Diana looked younger than Maya had expected, late 20s, sharp suit, tired eyes. She kept glancing at the door. I only have 15 minutes, she said. Nathan thinks I'm at a deposition. Why come to me? Because I didn't go to law school. To enable corruption. And because I like sleeping at night. Diana slid a USB drive across the table. What is it? Drafts, emails, strategy memos. They've been planning to reassign your custody judge to someone favorable Torres. Obviously, Maya kept her voice even. That's illegal. It's also subtle. Framed as court scheduling efficiencies, docket rebalancing, whatever buzzword, makes it sound reasonable. And my daughter, Emma? Diana hesitated. There's a memo suggesting she's the most malleable, that if she shows preference for you, the strategy is to shower her with validation and opportunities, rebuild emotional dependency. Maya stared at her. He's manipulating his own daughter to win a custody case. He doesn't see it that way. He sees it as restoring balance, restoring control. You mean? Diana looked down. I can't testify. I'd lose everything, but the drive is yours. Use it how you want. I'll deny we ever spoke. Why help me at all? She looked up. Because your daughter came into the office last month to bring him lunch. She waited an hour. He didn't even look up from his phone. She left it on his desk and walked out. I think, she cried in the elevator. Maya felt her throat tighten. Good luck, Miss Chen. For what it's worth, I think you're the one who should win. That night, Maya sat at her desk while Alex uploaded the files from the drive into the case timeline. This is gold, he said. There are metadata stamps on everything. Proof of intent. Even if Diana never speaks up, the stuff, it's powerful. But we can't let it seem like we hacked it. It needs to come from a legitimate source. Let me anonymize the origin, route it through a plausible leak. We'll make it court acceptable. You're a genius, I know. They shared a quiet smile. Then Maya opened the folder marked Custody Plan and Rivera Docs. She read it slowly. Clinical, language, emotionless, objective. Shift custody gradually by establishing pattern of parental preference reversal. Leverage school events, gifts, and access. Diminish maternal presence through reframing techniques and stress-based exposure. It was a blueprint, not for parenting, for conquest. Maya didn't sleep much that night. She lay awake, listening to the sound of the wind against the windows, the steady breathing of her children down the hall. She had always believed in justice. Not perfection, not easy wins, but justice. Now she would make sure it found them, not by destroying Nathan, but by letting him finish what he'd started. The difference now was that someone would be watching, and this time, they'd see everything. Act 3, Part 1, Lines in the Sand. It was a Thursday afternoon when the custody reassignment notice arrived in Maya's inbox. The email was couched in bureaucratic politeness, stamped with the court seal and masked in procedural jargon. Please be advised that, due to scheduling adjustments within the Multnomah County Family Court, the Honorable Judge Rebecca Torres has been reassigned to case #C-28476, Rivera v. Chen. Maya stared at the screen, her jaw clenched so tightly it ached. There it was, the culmination of the subtle maneuvering she'd predicted. The paper trail Diana had warned her about was now playing out in real time. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Kim. Emma asked to speak privately today. I think you should know what she said. Maya called immediately. Dr. Kim's voice was calm but firm. Emma's deeply aware that something is going on beneath the surface. She feels torn. She's worried that her father is pretending to be someone he's not, that he's performing for her, but dismissive when no one else is watching. Maya closed her eyes, guilt and resolve crashing against each other. She's incredibly perceptive, Dr. Kim continued, but she's also still a child. She needs reassurance that what she's feeling isn't betrayal, it's awareness, the kind that shapes who she becomes. I understand, Maya said quietly. I'll talk to her. Do it gently. She's already on your side. She just doesn't know if she's allowed to be. That evening, Maya found Emma alone in her room, earbuds in, staring at her ceiling. Hey, Maya said softly. Mind if I come in? Emma pulled out one earbud and sat up. Sure. Maya sat beside her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. You talked to Dr. Kim today. Emma looked down at her lap. Yeah. She said you had some questions. Emma's voice was a whisper. Is it bad if I don't like who Dad is right now? Maya inhaled deeply. No, sweetheart. It's not bad. It's honest. Emma's eyes welled. He's not the same. He used to laugh with us. He used to care. Now he only cares if it makes him look good. And I feel like I'm letting him lie by pretending I don't see it. Maya took her hand. You're not responsible for your father's choices. And you don't owe him a version of yourself that makes him comfortable. Emma wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her hoodie. I hate pretending. Maya's voice broke a little. Then stop. Be exactly who you are. And if that means speaking up, I'll be right there beside you. Always. 2 days later, Maya sat across from her lawyer, Carmen Liu, in a sunlit office overlooking downtown Portland. Carmen was sharp, deliberate, with a talent for strategy that mirrored Maya's own. You have more than enough to raise an objection, she said, flipping through the files Maya had brought. The court doesn't reassign custody judges without cause, and Torres's personal relationship with Nathan creates a clear conflict of interest. Will the court acknowledge it? Carmen paused. They'll fight it. Nathan will paint it as conspiracy talk. Torres will claim she disclosed the prior relationship years ago, probably in some obscure footnote. But you have the drive. You have Diana's indirect confirmation. And Dr. Kim's notes are gold. Then let's do it, Maya said. It won't be quick or clean, but if we're patient, we can petition to have Judge Harrison reassigned. You've built a compelling, ethical case. That matters. Maya exhaled. For the first time in weeks, she felt something other than tension pressing on her ribs. She felt momentum. That night, Maya sat with Marcus at the kitchen table as he finished his math homework. Can I ask you something? He said suddenly. Of course. Is it my fault you and Dad are fighting again? Maya's heart twisted. No, never. Why would you think that? He shrugged. I just want everyone to be happy. Sometimes I try too hard, and then it makes things worse. She reached across the table, cupping his small hand in hers. Marcus, your job isn't to make the adults happy. Your job is to be a kid. Go to school, play, make weird robots, eat too much cereal. Let us handle the hard stuff. But what if Dad says mean things about you? What if he says it's your fault? She swallowed. Then you can tell him you don't want to be in the middle. And you can tell me, and we'll deal with it together. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay. He returned to his homework, and Maya sat back watching him, stronger than he realized, more vulnerable than he let on. She would protect that at any cost. Later that night, Alex messaged her a secure folder. Inside were time-stamped screen captures from the drive, matched against court records and internal scheduling memos. This, he said during their call, is enough to launch a formal challenge. I cross-referenced when Torres's name began appearing next to your case and matched it to internal memos where Nathan proposed adjustments to her calendar. It's all there. Maya stared at the folder. A paper trail of power. A quiet attempt to erase her. But she wasn't disappearing. She was stepping into the light. The next day, Carmen filed a formal motion to challenge the judicial reassignment. Included a 27-page supporting brief. Attached were redacted excerpts from the leaked documents, Dr. Kim's behavioral reports, and Maya's own documentation. The court had 5 business days to respond. Maya stood in her office after the motion was filed, sunlight warming the hardwood floors beneath her feet. On the desk sat her old journalist notebook, now fat with pages of truth. She didn't know what would come next, but she knew one thing. Nathan was about to learn that Maya Chen was no longer playing defense. She was drawing her line in the sand, and she would not be moved. By Tuesday, the air in Maya's house felt electrified anticipation and dread braided together in every moment. The court hadn't responded yet, but Maya knew it was coming. When her phone rang just after noon, her stomach dropped. Carmen's voice came through, steady and clipped. The court granted the motion to delay. We've bought time. Maya sank into her office chair. That's something. They didn't remove Torres yet, but the review panel will look into it. You'll need to submit a personal declaration. Understood. We've rattled them. Now we need to push while they're still off balance. That evening, Maya sat at the dining table drafting her declaration. She chose her words carefully, not emotional, not accusatory, but firm. She wrote of integrity, of patterns, of the subtle erosion of trust that happens when a parent begins to treat their children like bargaining chips. She cited her commitment to truth not just in court, but in parenting. When she finished, she signed it with a hand that didn't shake. The next morning, she scanned the document and sent it to Carmen. Then she did something harder. She called Emma into her office. "Sweetheart," she said, "you may be asked to speak to Dr. Kim again soon, maybe even in a formal setting, about how things have been with Dad." Emma nodded slowly. "Okay. I want you to be honest, not careful, not diplomatic, just true." Emma hesitated. "What if he gets mad?" Maya took her hand. "Then that's his problem, not yours." Emma looked into her mother's eyes, and something in her expression shifted. She wasn't just nodding anymore. She was committing. On Thursday, Nathan arrived 10 minutes late to pick up the kids. He didn't apologize, just honked once from the driveway. Maya walked out to meet him before the kids emerged. "Got a minute?" He stepped out of the car, irritation already flaring. "This isn't the time." "It is," Maya said evenly. "You're aware the court is reviewing the reassignment." His jaw twitched. "So you went digging." "I protected my children." "That's what this is." Nathan looked past her to the house. "You think you're winning, but you're making things harder for the kids." "No," Maya said, her voice firm. "You did that the moment you turned this into a game. They're not your tokens. They're people, and they're watching." Nathan's fod cracked just a moment. Then he turned back toward the car. "We'll see what the court decides. They'll see what matters," Maya said. That night, Maya caught Marcus standing outside her bedroom door. He held his sketch pad to his chest. The next day, Carmen filed a formal motion to challenge the judicial reassignment. It included a 27-page supporting brief. Attached were redacted excerpts from the leaked documents, Dr. Kim's behavioral reports, and Maya's own documentation. The court had 5 business days to respond. Maya stood in her office after the motion was filed, sunlight warming the hardwood floors beneath her feet. On the desk sat her old journalist notebook, now fat with pages of truth. She didn't know what would come next, but she knew one thing. Nathan was about to learn that Maya Chen was no longer playing defense. She was drawing her line in the sand, and she would not be moved. By Tuesday, the air in Maya's house felt electrified. Anticipation and dread braided together in every moment. The court hadn't responded yet, but Maya knew it was coming. When her phone rang just after noon, her stomach dropped. Carmen's voice came through, steady and clipped. "The court granted the motion to delay. We've bought time." Maya sank into her office chair. "That's something. They didn't remove Torres yet, but the review panel will look into it. You'll need to submit a personal declaration." "Understood." "We've rattled them. Now we need to push while they're still off balance." That evening, Maya sat at the dining table drafting her declaration. She chose her words carefully, not emotional, not accusatory, but firm. She wrote of integrity, of patterns, of the subtle erosion of trust that happens when a parent begins to treat their children like bargaining chips. She cited her commitment to truth not just in court, but in parenting. When she finished, she signed it with a hand that didn't shake. The next morning, she scanned the document and sent it to Carmen. Then she did something harder. She called Emma into her office. "Sweetheart," she said, "you may be asked to speak to Dr. Kim again soon, maybe even in a formal setting, about how things have been with Dad." Emma nodded slowly. "Okay. I want you to be honest, not careful, not diplomatic, just true." Emma hesitated. "What if he gets mad?" Maya took her hand. "Then that's his problem, not yours." Emma looked into her mother's eyes, and something in her expression shifted. She wasn't just nodding anymore. She was committing. On Thursday, Nathan arrived 10 minutes late to pick up the kids. He didn't apologize, just honked once from the driveway. Maya walked out to meet him before the kids emerged. "Got a minute?" He stepped out of the car, irritation already flaring. "This isn't the time." "It is," Maya said evenly. "You're aware the court is reviewing the reassignment." His jaw twitched. "So you went digging." "I protected my children." "That's what this is." Nathan looked past her to the house. "You think you're winning, but you're making things harder for the kids." "No," Maya said, her voice firm. "You did that the moment you turned this into a game. They're not your tokens, they're people, and they're watching. Nathan's fod cracked just a moment. Then he turned back toward the car. We'll see what the court decides. They'll see what matters. Maya said. That night, Maya caught Marcus standing outside her bedroom door. He held his sketch pad to his chest. Quiet? Marcus sat on the floor, flipping open his sketch pad. Inside was a drawing and overhead view of their living room. Sophie on the couch, Emma reading, Maya at the kitchen table. It's loud here, he said, smiling faintly. But it feels safe. Maya's heart clenched. Couldn't sleep? She asked. He nodded. I kept thinking about Dad's house. It's too quiet. You can tell Dr. Kim that if she asks, she said softly. He looked up at her. Will that help? More than you know. The next morning, Carmen called again. They've requested preliminary statements from the children, mediated by a court-appointed child psychologist. Not direct testimony, just observation and dialogue. It's happening next week. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Maya took a breath. That's fast. They know they're exposed. They want to get ahead of it. Do we have any influence over who they assign? Not officially, but Dr. Kim is respected. I've already sent in her reports. Over the weekend, Maya took the kids to the coast. It wasn't a bribe or a distraction. It was a reminder of connection, of stability, of joy. They walked the beach, toes in the sand, collecting shells. Maya watched her children laugh freely, without tension behind their eyes. Even Marcus smiled easily, racing Sophie down the dunes. Emma fell behind as they walked, her gaze turned inward. Penny for your thoughts, Maya said. Emma shrugged. I feel like something big is coming. Maya nodded. It is, but we're ready. Emma looked up at her. We're going to be okay, right? Maya didn't lie. I can't promise it won't get harder, but yes, we're going to be okay. That night, in the rented cottage, Emma sat beside Maya with her laptop. I want to write something, she said. Not for court, just for me, about what I've seen, what I feel. Maya smiled. Your words are powerful. Write it. Emma's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then she began to type. My dad used to make me laugh. He used to tuck us in. He used to care. Or maybe he just seemed like he did. Now, I feel like I'm part of a performance. Like he's saying the lines but forgetting the story. Maya blinked back tears. Her daughter was more than brave. She was becoming a witness to truth. Emma paused, then turned. You can read the rest when it's finished. Maya nodded. Whenever you're ready. As the trip wound down, Maya knew the next phase was about to begin. Hearings, interviews, scrutiny. But for now, the ocean air filled her lungs, and the sound of her children's laughter stitched something whole again inside her. She wasn't just fighting for custody anymore. She was reclaiming something deeper: trust, clarity, voice, and Nathan, for all his planning, hadn't accounted for that. He'd tried to manipulate their future, but he'd underestimated their present, and that, Maya knew, was a mistake he couldn't undo. On Monday morning, Maya drove the kids to school like usual, but her thoughts weren't on traffic or drop-off lines. They were on a second calendar reminder blinking silently on her phone. Court-appointed child psychologist interview. Emma, Marcus, Sophie. It was the first formal evaluation, the one that could tilt everything. Emma sat beside her in the front seat, earbuds in, staring out the window. You don't have to be perfect today, Maya said softly. Emma took one earbud out. I know, just real, right? Maya smiled. Exactly. The psychologist's office was warm, intentionally non-threatening. Soft lighting, shelves of picture books, sensory toys arranged in inviting bins. The woman who greeted them, Dr. Ellen Rourke, had the calm presence of someone who knew how to navigate emotional minefields. Just me and the kids today, she told Maya. Standard protocol. But if you're okay with it, I'd like to check in with you afterward. Of course, Maya said, masking the nerves in her voice. She sat in the waiting area for almost 2 hours. When the door finally opened and the kids came out one by one, Emma gave her a subtle nod. Sophie climbed into her lap like it was instinct. Marcus clutched his sketchpad tightly. Dr. Rourke followed, expression unreadable. Let's talk, she said gently. In the private consultation room, Dr. Rourke folded her hands and leaned forward. Your children are extraordinary, she began, each in their own way, and each of them presented consistent narratives. That's rare in high-conflict custody cases. Maya's throat tightened. What did they say? Emma was articulate and observant. She shared her feelings about her father's emotional inconsistency, his tendency to perform affection rather than express it naturally. She didn't accuse him. She described behavior with precision. Maya swallowed. She's been holding that for a while. Marcus was more reserved, but he said something that stayed with me. At Mom's house, I know what's real. At Dad's house, I have to guess. That level of insight, especially from a middle child, is significant. Maya blinked back emotion. And Sophie? She's young. Her responses were simpler, but she kept saying one thing over and over. Mom doesn't forget me. That too tells a story. Dr. Rourke leaned back. There are clear patterns. Emotional distance from the father. Anxiety in his care. Emotional security with you. Maya nodded slowly. Will it be enough? It'll weigh heavily, Dr. Rourke said, especially if we pair it with professional observations. Dr. Kim's notes corroborate much of what I saw. Maya exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. Thank you, she said. Dr. Rourke offered a small smile. Keep doing what you're doing. They're watching, and it's making all the difference. Later that night, Maya sat on her porch wrapped in a blanket, the cool Portland air brushing against her skin. Alex arrived with 2 coffees and no preamble. I heard, he said, handing her a cup. You hack my email now? He smirked. Carmen called. Said the evaluations went in your favor. Maya nodded. For now. Alex took a sip of coffee. What's next? We wait. Torres hasn't responded to the motion yet. If she doesn't recuse herself, Carmen will file for judicial misconduct. And if she does, then we push for Harrison. Alex leaned back. You know, for someone who never wanted a legal career, you're scarily good at this. I didn't want this fight, Maya said, but if I have to wage it, I'm going to win it with integrity. Alex clinked his cup against hers. To war by truth. The next morning, Maya opened her inbox to a single new message. The sender was unexpected. From Judge Rebecca Torres. Subject: Notice of voluntary recusums. Chen, please be advised that, effective immediately, I am recusing myself from the above-referenced custody proceedings due to perceived conflicts of interest and to preserve judicial impartiality. Respectfully, Han. Rebecca Torres. Maya stared at the message. Then she closed her eyes and allowed herself a single, full breath of relief. Carmen called within minutes. This is a win, Maya. Don't downplay it. Voluntary recusal means we avoid a hearing. We keep the narrative clean. Will Harrison take the case? He's next in line for the docket. We're petitioning for continuity of care based on Dr. Kim and Dr. Rourke's combined reports. It's likely. Maya nodded slowly. Then the real case begins. Yes, Carmen said. But this time, you have everything you need. That evening, Maya brought the kids together around the dining table, not with formality, but with quiet intention. I want you all to know, she said, that I'm proud of you. Not for choosing sides, but for being honest, for speaking up. Emma looked up. Did it help? Yes, Maya said. More than you know. Sophie leaned her head against Maya's arm. Does that mean we don't have to talk to scary court people anymore? Maya smiled gently. Maybe not for a while. Marcus looked around. So what happens now? Maya took a breath. Now, someone new will decide what's best for us, but they'll have the truth this time. The whole truth. And that means we have a chance. The kids nodded, and for the first time in weeks, the weight in the room lifted. They weren't out of the woods, but the forest had light now, and Maya would follow that light all the way through. Judge William Harrison's courtroom felt more like a university library than a hall of judgment. Bookshelves lined the paneled walls, the air carried the soft scent of aged paper and coffee, and the judge himself, white-haired and rumpled, read case briefs through wire-framed glasses that perched perpetually at the tip of his nose. When Maya stepped into that room for the pre-hearing conference, she was no longer uncertain. She was armed with truth, backed by ethics, and steadied by her children's quiet courage. Nathan, seated across the aisle, exuded a confidence that had grown brittle at the edges. His suit was still perfect, his tie knotted just right, but he had stopped smiling with his eyes. Carmen leaned in. Play it calm. Harrison values clarity over spectacle. He doesn't respond to theatrics. Maya nodded. When the judge called them forward, Nathan's attorney opened with practiced charm. Your Honor, we believe that shared physical custody is not only appropriate but essential to ensuring equal parental involvement. Mr. Rivera has maintained housing, educational engagement, and Judge Harrison raised one hand, gently but firmly. I've read the preliminary filings. I've reviewed the documentation, including child psychologist reports. Let's not waste time repeating what's already in the record. He turned to Maya. Miss Chen, you requested primary custody based on behavioral patterns. In your own words, not your lawyer's. What do you believe is in the best interest of your children? Maya glanced briefly at Carmen, who nodded. She stepped forward. Consistency, Your Honor. Emotional safety. A parent who's present not just in hours, but in attention, presence, and responsibility. I'm not asking to erase their father, I'm asking to preserve their well-being. Harrison studied her. And do you believe Mr. Rivera is incapable of providing that consistency? Maya hesitated, not because she didn't know the answer, but because this moment required honesty, not vengeance. I believe he chooses image over substance. I believe he loves them in the way he understands love. But his pattern is one of distraction, performance, and reactive parenting. Our children need more than that. There was silence in the room. Then Harrison turned to Nathan. Mr. Rivera, you may respond. Nathan stood. With respect, Your Honor, I think my ex-wife has a narrative she's committed to. Yes, I have a demanding job. Yes, I've made mistakes. But I've also made every effort to remain involved. I've never harmed my children. I've never withheld love. No one has accused you of abuse, Mr. Rivera, Harrison said evenly. But presence isn't measured only in minutes. It's measured in reliability. Do you believe your children feel secure in your care? Nathan faltered. They're adapting. Transitions are hard, indeed, Harrison said. He looked down at his notes. We'll move forward with individual testimony under sealed review, followed by expert recommendation. Final custody determination will occur in 30 days. He banged the gavel softly. This court is adjourned for today. Outside, in the crisp March wind, Maya finally allowed herself to breathe. Carmen caught up beside her. He didn't dismiss Nathan. That matters. Do we have enough? Carmen's expression was thoughtful. We have something better than enough. We have credibility. Nathan approached then, walking alone. He didn't look smug, he looked tired. Maya, he said. She turned to face him. Why did you do this? You could have kept it civil. I did keep it civil. You're the one who brought Torres in. You're the one who saw our kids as leverage. He looked away. I was angry, he admitted. You made it look easy, holding it together, winning them over. It wasn't easy. It was honest. He was quiet for a moment. I thought the system would favor me, he said. It always has. Not this time. He nodded slowly, something dimming in his eyes. Tell them I'm sorry, he said. Maya's voice was firm. Tell them yourself. He turned and walked away. That night, back home, Maya sat at the kitchen table while Marcus and Sophie played a board game, and Emma typed quietly on her laptop. Can I read it to you? Emma asked. Maya turned. Of course. Emma cleared her throat. It's called What I See. She began to read. I see my mother waking up early to pack lunches and double-check calendars. I see her put her phone down when I speak. I see her notice when my brother's shoulders sag, when my sister stops humming. I see my father too. I see him try. But sometimes trying isn't enough when your children are already learning how to measure love by presence, not promises. Maya listened. Heart full. Emma's voice didn't tremble. When she finished, Maya leaned over and kissed her daughter's temple. You're brave. Emma smiled. I learned it from you. As the kids got ready for bed, Maya stared out the window. The city lights shimmered, and for the first time in a long time, they didn't feel like distractions. They felt like direction. 30 days, a judgment would come. A final ruling. But the truth had already arrived. In the voices of her children. In the silence Nathan could no longer hide behind. In the integrity she never gave up. And whatever the court decided, Maya Chen had already reclaimed what mattered most. Her children knew who she was, and now, so did everyone else. Maya stood at the center of her living room, arms crossed, staring down at the white envelope on the table. It was plain, unassuming, but the return address printed in tight black type read, Multnomah County Family Court. 30 days had passed. The judgment was in, but Maya didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, she turned and walked to the back patio where the kids were throwing a tennis ball to Cooper, their golden retriever. Laughter bounced off the fence like music. Emma was reading aloud between throws, using dramatic voices to entertain Marcus and Sophie. Maya soaked it in. Whatever the court had decided, this right here was already hers. Earlier that morning, Carmen had called with a preemptive briefing. I haven't seen the full ruling, but a clerk I trust says Harrison went with a hybrid structure. It's not quite full custody, but it leans heavily in your favor. Maya had paused, processing. So it's not over? It's never completely over. But this is a win. It sets precedent. It restricts Nathan's leverage. And it allows the kids more continuity. What does that mean exactly? You remain the residential parent. He'll have alternating weekends and one midweek dinner visit. No overnights during school weeks unless the children request it directly. And the psychologist. Reports? All cited. All weighed. Harrison even quoted Emma's statement. Maya had smiled, heart aching with pride. He saw her. He saw all of you. Carmen had replied. Now the rest is just documentation. Maya finally opened the envelope that evening after the kids were asleep. Everything Carmen described was confirmed in formal language. The ruling outlined boundaries, expectations, and most importantly consequences for manipulation, interference, or inconsistency. She sat at her desk, read it once more, and filed it neatly in a locked cabinet. Then she opened her notebook and wrote, April 12, primary custody. Awarded. Children's voices heard. Truth acknowledged. Not victory but justice. She closed the book. The rest of the story would be lived, not recorded. 2 days later, Nathan showed up 15 minutes early for his first supervised dinner visit. Maya met him at the door, expression neutral. You can wait in the car. They'll be out at 6. He didn't argue, just nodded and turned back toward the driveway. When the kids came out, they greeted him with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Emma was civil. Marcus gave him a half hug. And Sophie waved, but clung to her backpack strap. Have fun, Maya said gently, kneeling to kiss each of them. I'll be right here when you get home. As they drove away, Maya didn't feel fear, just a steady calm, like the stillness after a storm. She trusted her children now not to be perfect, but to be aware. That evening, Maya received a message she hadn't expected, from Diana Martinez, subject, leaving the firms. Chen, just wanted you to know I've submitted my resignation. I'll be joining a nonprofit that advocates for ethical family law reform. Your case reminded me why I studied law in the first place. Thank you for holding the line. People notice more than you think. Maya reread the email twice, then leaned back and exhaled. A ripple of impact she hadn't anticipated. Integrity spreading outward, she replied simply, thank you for choosing the harder right. Over the next week, life began to settle into its new rhythm. Maya went back to her design studio. Emma returned to her robotics team. Marcus made a new friend in art club. Sophie asked to take piano again with a different teacher this time, one who used stickers and told jokes. Even Cooper seemed lighter, bounding through the yard like the weight in the house had lifted. But Maya wasn't naive. She knew Nathan would resurface, recalibrate. Charm didn't die easily. Manipulators didn't surrender control without probing the walls again. So she remained vigilant. She documented. She stayed honest. And she never asked her children to choose. They would make that decision for themselves in time. One night, as April rain tapped against the windows, Maya found Emma curled on the couch reading. What you got there? Emma held up the book. It's called The Glass Castle. It's about a girl growing up with really complicated parents. It's kind of sad, but she tells the truth about it. Maya smiled softly. Sounds familiar. Emma closed the book and looked up. Do you think Dad really believed he was doing what was best? Maya thought about it. I think he believed what was best was keeping control. Sometimes people confuse control with care, especially when they've never been taught how to give without taking. Emma nodded. I still feel bad sometimes for not trying harder. You tried exactly the right amount. You were honest. You protected your siblings. And you told the truth even when it was scary. Emma set the book down and leaned into her mother's side. Will it always be like this? Awkward? Uncertain? Maya wrapped an arm around her. Maybe sometimes. But there's a lot more joy ahead than fear. And we're learning how to live in truth, not pretend it away. Emma whispered. That feels better already. And Maya, for the first time in what felt like forever, truly believed it. The storm had passed. Now came the rebuilding. Spring deepened in Portland. The trees that had once held bare limbs now bloomed in soft pinks and greens, and Maya found herself catching breaths of sunlight on walks she hadn't taken in months. It wasn't peace exactly, there were still forms to file, co-parenting, boundaries to negotiate, therapy check-ins to schedule, but it was a version of calm. A new rhythm. Nathan, for all his earlier bravado, had grown quieter. His scheduled time with the kids became punctual and subdued. No grand gestures, no flashy distractions, just quiet dinners, occasional outings, and return drop-offs that were no longer late. Maya knew why. Judge Harrison's ruling had been clear. Any documented pattern of coercion, favoritism, or neglect would lead to further reduction in parenting time. Nathan had been warned. But what struck Maya more than his compliance was the way the children responded. There was no longer tension when he pulled into the driveway. But there wasn't excitement either. They went. They returned. And between those visits, they lived their real lives. One Thursday afternoon, Marcus brought home a school flyer. "Career day is next month," he said. "They're letting parents come talk about their jobs." Maya smiled. "Do you want me to come?" Marcus hesitated. "Yeah. I think it'd be cool if you talked about architecture." "What about your dad?" "He said he might be in court that day." Maya nodded. She didn't ask any further. Instead, she marked the date on her calendar, began putting together a kid-friendly version of her portfolio, and took Marcus to visit one of her buildings downtown. As they stood in the open atrium of a sustainable housing complex she'd designed, Maya watched his eyes widen. "You did this?" "I helped shape it, along with a whole team of people." He turned slowly, absorbing the space. "I want to build something too," he said. "You already are," Maya replied. "Every time you speak your truth, you're laying a brick." Meanwhile, Sophie had started sleeping with her old recital dress draped over the foot of her bed. When Maya asked about it one night during tuck-in, Sophie shrugged. "I just like seeing it. It reminds me of you." Clapping, Maya ran a hand gently through her hair. "You're going to have a lot more recitals." "I know," Sophie said. "And you're going to come to all of them. Always." Emma, for her part, had stopped asking about the court case. Not because she didn't care, but because she'd moved past it. She was neck-deep in her robotics team's regional competition and had recently won a leadership award at school. One night, Maya found her writing again, this time. Not an essay or a journal entry, but a letter, addressed to Nathan. Emma noticed her in the doorway. "It's not to send," she said quickly. "It's for me to let it go." Maya nodded and sat beside her. "Want to share it?" Emma folded the page in half. "Not yet." "Okay." But a moment later, she handed it over anyway. Maya read, "Dear Dad, I wish you'd been honest with us sooner. I wish I didn't have to figure things out by watching what you did instead of what you said. I wish you knew how much damage pretending does to a kid who just wants the truth. But I'm not angry anymore. Not really. I just know who you are now. And I know who I am too. I'm not broken. I'm just growing." Maya folded the letter carefully and returned it. "You don't have to forgive what you're not ready to," she said. Emma smiled faintly. "I know, but I'm getting there." 2 weeks later, on a quiet Sunday morning, Maya received an unexpected call from Dr. Kim. "I had a final session with Sophie yesterday," the therapist said. "She asked me if everything was finished." "Finished?" Maya asked. She meant the fighting part, as she called it. "I told her things were calmer now, that grown-ups had made decisions to help protect her time and space." Maya sat down slowly at the kitchen table. "And what did she say?" She said, "Good, because I like how it feels now." Maya closed her eyes, heart full. "Thank you for telling me. She's a resilient little soul." "They all are. But that strength came from somewhere, Maya. And it came from watching you." That evening, as the sun dipped below the trees and cast golden streaks across the living room, Maya stood at the bay window, watching her 3 children sprawled on the floor. Marcus was sketching ideas for a treehouse. Sophie was drawing stars on the soles of her socks. Emma was editing a new piece. Headphones around her neck, Maya didn't say anything. She just let the moment wash over her. No urgent phone calls. No court documents. No whispered fears about custody or manipulation or leverage. Just this, the quiet win. Not a moment of triumph but of restoration, of being chosen, not by a judge, but by her own children, in the ways that mattered most. And for Maya Chen, that was everything. Maya sat on the roof deck of her studio downtown, a mug of tea warming her hands, and the city spread out before her. The air held that crisp Portland coolness that never quite surrendered to spring, but the sunlight on her skin felt like a small mercy. Below her, her team worked through blueprints for a multi-family housing project, her first major build since the custody hearing ended. She'd signed the contract last week. For the first time in years, her career no longer lived in the shadow of someone else's ambition. Her phone buzzed, a message from Alex, presentation uploaded. Slides look amazing. Proud of you. She smiled and sent back a thumbs-up emoji. Her little brother, always the tech safety net, had become something more in recent months, a collaborator, a partner, a reminder that loyalty doesn't need to be loud to be steady. Later that afternoon, Maya picked the kids up early from school. It was her birthday, and she'd taken the day off not because she wanted cake or gifts, but because she wanted time, real time. They celebrated simply. A picnic in Washington Park, sandwiches, fruit, Sophie's hand-painted birthday card. I made your eyes extra sparkly, Sophie declared, showing off her watercolor sketch. Marcus handed her a folded piece of paper. I wrote you a joke list. Top 10 reasons you're the coolest mom. Emma gave her a tiny silver pendant, an abstract geometric shape that looked suspiciously like one of Maya's old building models. I made it in the metal workshop, Emma said. It's like you, but in necklace form. Maya laughed, then cried, then hugged them all at once. There were still scars under her skin, but her heart was full. That evening, just as she was washing dishes and humming a song she hadn't remembered in years, the doorbell rang. It was Nathan. She hesitated before opening the door. He stood on the porch holding a plain manila envelope. I won't come in, he said quickly. I just wanted to give you this. She accepted it without opening it. What is it? Financial records. For the kids' schooling accounts. I've consolidated things, made a clearer structure. I realized I didn't want them to have to deal with my mess later. Maya was quiet. She didn't say thank you, but she didn't close the door either. Nathan looked down. They're different around you. Calmer, like they know where they stand. That's what love without conditions looks like, she replied. He looked up. I know I lost their trust. And yours. I just didn't realize how far I'd gone until they stopped looking for me in the stands. Maya's voice was steady. You can still choose to show up. No manipulation. No performance. Just presence. Nathan nodded. I'm trying, not for court. Just because I should have done it a long time ago. She stepped back and closed the door. She didn't lock it. But she didn't open it again either. That weekend, Emma asked if they could visit the coast. Just us? She clarified. Maya agreed. They drove west with the windows cracked, singing badly to old songs and stopping for drive-through milkshakes. When they reached Cannon Beach, the tide was low and the air salty and sharp. Emma walked ahead, silent at first. Then, suddenly, she turned. Do you ever feel like we're finally out of something we didn't know we were trapped inside? Maya nodded. All the time. Emma dug her hands into her jacket pockets. I was scared I'd never see him the same way again. But now I think it's okay if I don't. You can love him and still be honest about who he is. Emma glanced out toward the water. I don't even know if I love him. Not like I used to. But I don't hate him either. I feel like I'm allowed to grow now. You are. They stood together as the waves rolled in, slow and steady. Emma pulled a small rock from her coat. It was smooth, heart-shaped, salt-washed. Let's leave it here, she said. For the past, just one piece. Maya watched her place it carefully at the base of a driftwood log. They didn't look back. Back home, Maya opened a new design file on her computer, a concept for a community. Healing space, part garden, part art studio, part resource center. A place for families in crisis to come, breathe, rebuild. She typed a name at the top of the document. The Compass Project, inspired by her children, funded partly by her new contract, dedicated to the quiet victories. Her phone lit up with a text from Carmen. Lunch next week? I want to see the blueprints. Maya smiled. She didn't reply immediately. She watched the cursor blink beside the project name, and then, with calm hands and a clear heart, she began to sketch a new beginning, built on truth and designed to last. 1 week after their coastal trip, Maya walked the perimeter of a narrow city lot just east of Burnside, her clipboard in hand, hair pulled back beneath a faded baseball cap. The lot wasn't much, just a cracked foundation, remnants of a condemned community center, but to her, it pulsed with potential. She held up her sketches, matching lines on the page to the horizon. The Compass Project would live here, a sanctuary, built for those with no space to breathe in the aftermath of upheaval. Families navigating divorce, children stuck between versions of home, mothers rebuilding their voices. She imagined the garden first a circular path winding through lavender and sage, then the gathering room, all warm wood and wide windows, and in the center, a fire pit surrounded by benches that invited stories, not just healing. Reconnection, Emma's idea originally. The driftwood circle they'd built at Cannon Beach had stayed with her. You should make it round, Emma had said. So no one's at the head, no one's in charge, everyone just belongs. Later that afternoon, Maya presented the Compass plans to a small local advisory board. Carmen came. So did Dr. Kim, and 2 school counselors from the kids' district. Diana Martinez, too fresh from her new role at the legal aid nonprofit. Maya clicked through each slide with clarity and calm. This isn't about therapy, she explained. It's about pause, reflection, creative freedom, guidance without pressure. When the presentation ended, the room stayed quiet for a moment, then Carmen nodded. You've built a place that doesn't choose sides, Doctor. Kim added softly. A place for honesty to land safely. Diana spoke last. This is what the system needs more than courtrooms, somewhere to feel safe before you're told what's right. Maya smiled. That's the idea. The kids were adjusting well to the new rhythm. Visits with Nathan had become routine, even mundane. Sophie started bringing her own coloring books. Marcus had taken to carrying a Rubik's Cube in his pocket, something to focus on when the air got awkward. Emma, she'd carved her own boundary. She went when she wanted. When she didn't, she said so. Nathan hadn't pushed back. He was trying. Maya could see it, not with grand reformations, but with smaller, quieter shifts. No more guilt trips, fewer performative gifts. Just showing up and listening. It wasn't redemption, but it was an effort, and the kids noticed. One Friday evening, Maya sat with Emma in the backyard, lanterns swaying above them in the breeze. Do you think people really change? Emma asked. Maya thought a moment. I think they evolve. Change is like turning into someone new. Evolution is when we return to who we were meant to be all along. Emma leaned her head on Maya's shoulder. I like that better. Maya kissed her hair. You've done a lot of evolving lately. So have you. The Compass Project broke ground in late May. It started with a community event. Volunteers painting signs, laying mulch, prepping planters. Maya stood with Sophie at the garden plot, showing her how to dig space for the lavender seedlings. These are my favorite, Sophie said. They smell like calm, exactly what we need here. Maya replied. Marcus helped arrange the fire pit. Stones with Alex, measuring and spacing each one precisely. I want it to be even, he said, so no one feels out of place. Emma ran the welcome table, handing out name tags, her clipboard filled with check marks. Organized, observant. When Maya stepped back and looked at them, her kids, this space, these people, she saw something extraordinary, not just survival, continuity. Nathan showed up halfway through the event. He kept his distance at first, helping stack lumber near the tool shed. But eventually, Sophie spotted him and pulled him toward the garden. This is where the talking bench is going, she explained. You sit there when you have a big feeling but no words yet. Nathan looked around. It's beautiful. Maya met him near the herb beds. He dusted his hands off. I wasn't sure I should come. It's a public space, Maya said evenly. No one's unwelcome here. Nathan nodded. I'm not trying to step into what you've built. I just wanted them to see me show up for something real. Maya studied him. He looked older, less polished, but not hollow. I hope you mean that, she said. I do. He glanced around. You made something that'll outlast this fight. That matters. It always did. That evening, after the volunteers left and dusk softened the sky, Maya sat alone in the center of the new circle. She lit a small flame in the middle of the fire pit, not for warmth, for memory. Then one by one, the kids emerged from the house with mugs of cocoa and joined her. No one said much. They just sat, shoulders brushing, firelight flickering across their faces. Maya looked around at them. Emma, quiet and wise. Marcus, steady and kind. Sophie, wide-eyed and open-hearted. She didn't need to write anything down. This wasn't a record. This was the life she'd rebuilt, and it was everything she'd hoped it would be. No deception, no strategy, just truth, held in the hands of those who'd helped her build it, brick by brick, light by light. 1 week after their coastal trip, Maya walked the perimeter of a narrow city lot just east of Burnside, her clipboard in hand, hair pulled back beneath a faded baseball cap. The lot wasn't much, just a cracked foundation, remnants of a condemned community center, but to her, it pulsed with potential. She held up her sketches, matching lines on the page to the horizon. The Compass Project would live here, a sanctuary, built for those with no space to breathe in the aftermath of upheaval. Families navigating divorce, children stuck between versions of home, mothers rebuilding their voices. She imagined the garden, first a circular path winding through lavender and sage, then the gathering room, all warm wood and wide windows, and in the center, a fire pit surrounded by benches that invited stories, not just healing. Reconnection, Emma's idea originally. The driftwood circle they'd built at Cannon Beach had stayed with her. You should make it round, Emma had said. So no one's at the head, no one's in charge, everyone just belongs. Later that afternoon, Maya presented the Compass plans to a small local advisory board. Carmen came. So did Dr. Kim, and 2 school counselors from the kids' district. Diana Martinez, too fresh from her new role at the legal aid nonprofit. Maya clicked through each slide with clarity and calm. This isn't about therapy, she explained. It's about pause, reflection, creative freedom, guidance without pressure. When the presentation ended, the room stayed quiet for a moment, then Carmen nodded. You've built a place that doesn't choose sides, Doctor. Kim added softly. A place for honesty to land safely. Diana spoke last. This is what the system needs more than courtrooms, somewhere to feel safe before you're told what's right. Maya smiled. That's the idea. The kids were adjusting well to the new rhythm. Visits with Nathan had become routine, even mundane. Sophie started bringing her own coloring books. Marcus had taken to carrying a Rubik's Cube in his pocket, something to focus on when the air got awkward. Emma, she'd carved her own boundary. She went when she wanted. When she didn't, she said so. Nathan hadn't pushed back. He was trying. Maya could see it, not with grand reformations, but with smaller, quieter shifts. No more guilt trips, fewer performative gifts, just showing up and listening. It wasn't redemption, but it was an effort, and the kids noticed. One Friday evening, Maya sat with Emma in the backyard, lanterns swaying above them in the breeze. Do you think people really change? Emma asked. Maya thought a moment. I think they evolve. Change is like turning into someone new. Evolution is when we return to who we were meant to be all along. Emma leaned her head on Maya's shoulder. I like that better. Maya kissed her hair. You've done a lot of evolving lately, so have you. The Compass Project broke ground in late May. It started with a community event, volunteers painting signs, laying mulch, prepping planters. Maya stood with Sophie at the garden plot, showing her how to dig space for the lavender seedlings. These are my favorite, Sophie said. They smell like calm, exactly what we need here, Maya replied. Marcus helped arrange the fire pit. Stones with Alex, measuring and spacing each one precisely. I want it to be even, he said, so no one feels out of place. Emma ran the welcome table, handing out name tags, her clipboard filled with check marks. Organized, observant. When Maya stepped back and looked at them, her kids, this space, these people, she saw something extraordinary, not just survival. Continuity. Nathan showed up halfway through the event. He kept his distance at first, helping stack lumber near the tool shed. But eventually, Sophie spotted him and pulled him toward the garden. This is where the talking bench is going, she explained. You sit there when you have a big feeling but no words yet. Nathan looked around. It's beautiful. Maya met him near the herb beds. He dusted his hands off. I wasn't sure I should come. It's a public space, Maya said evenly. No one's unwelcome here. Nathan nodded. I'm not trying to step into what you've built. I just wanted them to see me show up for something real. Maya studied him. He looked older, less polished, but not hollow. I hope you mean that, she said. I do. He glanced around. You made something that'll outlast this fight. That matters. It always did. That evening, after the volunteers left and dusk softened the sky, Maya sat alone in the center of the new circle. She lit a small flame in the middle of the fire pit, not for warmth, for memory. Then one by one, the kids emerged from the house with mugs of cocoa and joined her. And no one said much. They just sat, shoulders brushing, firelight flickering across their faces. Maya looked around at them. Emma, quiet and wise. Marcus, steady and kind. Sophie, wide-eyed and open-hearted. She didn't need to write anything down. This wasn't a record. This was the life she'd rebuilt, and it was everything she'd hoped it would be. No deception, no strategy, just truth, held in the hands of those who'd helped her build it, brick by brick, light by light. The last day of school arrived wrapped in the hum of anticipation. Sophie came bouncing down the steps with a glitter-covered card for her teacher and a summer reading list, too ambitious for an 8-year-old. Marcus wore his robotics club t-shirt, already plotting next year's competition. And Emma, confident, calm, had volunteered to help with cleanup, her arms filled with return slips and unclaimed lost and found items. Maya stood back and watched them with a kind of reverence, not because they were perfect, but because they were whole. That afternoon, they went for ice cream. The same corner shop they'd visited every June since Emma was in kindergarten. This time, though, no one asked who was paying. No one looked over their shoulder. Maya sat at a shaded table while the kids compared toppings and argued over waffle cones. She checked her phone once. No missed messages, no core emails, no pending filings. She put the phone away and stayed present, the way she always promised herself she would. Later that weekend, Maya received an invitation in the mail. It was a simple white card embossed with navy ink, Portland Family Law Forum. Guest panel discussion on ethics and reform. We respectfully invite Maya Chen to share her experience and insight on parenting, transparency, and navigating contested custody with integrity. Her name wasn't attached to a case file anymore. It was attached to change. Emma helped her write the speech. They sat at the dining table for hours, trading edits and debating tone. You don't have to be polished, Emma said. Just tell them what no one told you. Maya kept that line, word for word. When the evening arrived, she stood before a modest crowd of lawyers, therapists, family advocates. I'm not here to tell you how to win a case, she began. I'm here to ask what kind of people we're raising when adults prioritize being right over being kind. She spoke of trust, of how children remember not what you told them, but how you made them feel when you thought no one was watching. She didn't mention Nathan by name. She didn't need to. The story was no longer about him. At home, life grew richer in the quiet ways. Sophie planted herbs in the kitchen window box. Marcus discovered woodworking and built a lopsided but proudly functional bookshelf for his room. Emma published an essay online, under her own name, about resilience and voice. It was shared widely. Her former guidance counselor left a comment. Your words will help more kids than you know. Maya printed it and pinned it to the fridge, not for display, for reminder. One night, just before bed, Sophie crawled into Maya's lap. Are you glad the fighting is over? I am, Maya said. Me too. She traced the lines on Maya's hand. I think we're stronger now. Like when a bone heals and makes new stuff around it. Maya smiled. That's called a callus. It's what keeps us from breaking the same way twice. Sophie nodded. Good. I want to be like that. You already are. The Compass Project opened to the public on a warm Sunday in July. People came slowly at first, parents, teachers, teens, even a few grandparents. Some came just to sit, others came to listen. Some simply wandered the garden, breathing in lavender and trying to name what hurt. Maya walked the grounds in quiet rotation, answering questions when asked, offering space when not. At the center of the fire circle, the first workshop began. Storytelling for kids in transition. Sophie attended. So did Marcus. Emma volunteered to help. At the closing circle, each child placed a painted stone in the garden's heart. Some bore words, some bore nothing at all. All of them belonged. That night, Maya stood at the window with a mug of tea, the lights of the city stretching like stars below. Nathan had texted earlier, just one line. I heard about Compass. I'm proud of what you've done. She didn't respond. But she didn't delete the message either. Some things no longer needed an answer. They just needed to be witnessed. It's quieter now, she said. It is. Do you think it'll stay that way? Maya considered it. I think quiet is something we choose. Over and over again. Emma nodded. Then let's keep choosing it. And together, they watched the city breathe, knowing that the stillness they'd fought for wasn't just an ending. It was the beginning of something lasting. Not the absence of noise, but the presence of peace, and in that silence, they found themselves whole. By mid-July, Portland settled into its slow burn summer. The kind of days where the heat lingered under the skin and the city seemed to stretch itself thinner with every breeze. Maya didn't mind. The stillness of warm afternoons gave her permission to pause, not in fear, but in reflection. The compass project was now fully operational. The first 6-week family transition group had wrapped up, with 10 families completing the program. Maya sat in on the final circle, listening as parents and kids shared what they had gained. Clarity, calm voice. One mother said, "Through tears, I stopped performing motherhood and started living it." That stayed with Maya long after the chairs had been folded and the lanterns turned off. At home, things had softened into a new kind of normal. Mornings were slow. Marcus made pancakes most days, Sophie drew chalk murals on the sidewalk, and Emma took long solo walks before diving into summer assignments she wasn't even required to complete. Maya often found herself observing rather than directing, which was a quiet triumph in itself. Nathan stayed consistent with his visitation. Predictable. He didn't overstep, didn't push. Sometimes he lingered too long in the driveway. Once, he asked Maya if they could talk. They did. On neutral ground. A public cafe. 2 coffees. No agenda. He told her he'd started seeing a counselor, not for legal optics, but because Emma had looked at him one day and said, "You're always somewhere else, even when you're here." "I want to be a better dad," he'd said, "not for custody, just because it's time." Maya had nodded. She didn't congratulate him, but she didn't doubt him either. Some truths didn't require applause, just recognition. Emma received an invitation to a summer writing workshop in Seattle, a week-long residency for teens focused on memoir, social justice, and first-person narrative. Maya watched her read the email, trying to mask her hope. "It's okay if it's too far," Emma said quickly. "I know it's short notice." Maya shook her head. "You need to go." Emma blinked. "Really? You need to know what it feels like to trust your voice in a room of strangers. Go show them what truth sounds like when it's written by someone who lived it." Emma smiled so wide it cracked open something old and tender in Maya's chest. The night before Emma left, they packed her bag together. Sophie tucked in a tiny drawing of the family, everyone holding ice cream cones. Marcus donated his favorite pencil for outlines and emergencies, he said seriously. Maya slipped in a short note. "You are the story and the storyteller. Trust both." At the bus station, Emma hugged them each tightly. When it was Maya's turn, she whispered, "You helped me write the first half. I'll finish the rest." Maya didn't cry until the bus was out of sight. The Compass Project continued to grow. Dr. Kim began hosting restorative circles for blended families. Diana organized legal literacy nights to demystify family law for at-risk parents. Alex helped build an interactive digital map of support services that Maya posted by the entrance. Each Friday, they held an open hour called Quiet Bench. Anyone could come, sit, think, speak, or say nothing at all. One evening, a teen boy sat for an hour, then quietly asked, "Is it okay if I don't forgive my dad yet?" Maya had answered, "It's okay if you never do. Forgiveness isn't the ticket. Understanding is." He nodded. "I think I understand." Enough. Nathan brought Sophie home from dinner one night with a story. "We made a cake," Sophie said, grinning. "Dad let me use the mixer. He only freaked out a little when I got flour on his shoes." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Only a little?" Nathan chuckled. "Okay, maybe more than a little." There was no tension, just mild awkwardness, the kind that came from former lives brushing edges. Later, as Maya walked Sophie upstairs, her daughter whispered, "He's trying to be fun." "I think that's harder for grown-ups." Maya kissed her forehead. "It gets easier when they stop trying and just are." Emma called from Seattle midweek, breathless with excitement. "They had us write a scene with dialogue from a conversation. That changed us," she said. "I wrote the day Dad told you he didn't want us." Maya felt her chest tighten. "I didn't make it dramatic," Emma added. "I just described what you did, how you looked like you'd been hit, but still told us we were safe." "My mentor said that was the real power in the piece. Because it was yours," Maya whispered. "No," Emma said, "because it was real." And that, more than anything, was the reason Maya had survived all of it. Because no matter how dark things had gotten, she never stopped choosing reality, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt, because reality was what let the light in, and the light, finally, was staying. The day Emma returned from Seattle, Portland greeted her with a soft drizzle. Maya stood at the curb outside the bus terminal, coffee in one hand, The other clenched slightly until she saw her daughter step off, backpack slung over one shoulder and journal tucked under her arm. Emma spotted her, waved, and crossed the sidewalk. With that easy confidence she'd grown into, Maya opened her arms. Emma stepped into them without hesitation. "You smell like bookstore and train snacks," Maya murmured. "Exactly the goal," Emma said, grinning. They drove home in quiet companionship, the kind where no one needed to speak because presence had already said everything. The house felt different with Emma back, livelier, more centered. Marcus pulled her into his room to show off a new Lego build. Sophie made her a welcome home sign in glitter glue and insisted they hang it on the fridge. That evening, over veggie stir-fry and sparkling water, Emma shared pieces of her workshop experience, the friends she'd made, the stories she'd heard, the way one of the instructors cried after hearing her essay. "They said it wasn't just my voice," Emma said, stirring her rice. "It was the steadiness behind it." Maya's eyes prickled. "You gave me that," Emma added quietly. The following weekend brought an unexpected visitor. Nathan arrived Saturday afternoon unannounced, but not unwelcome. He'd learned slowly that boundaries mattered more than timing. Maya met him on the porch, Sophie's sneakers abandoned near the steps. "I know it's not my day," he said. "I just wanted to drop something off." He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, this time addressed to Emma. "She doesn't have to read it," Nathan said quickly. "I just wanted her to have something that wasn't about court dates or custody schedules. Just me, trying to say what I couldn't say before." Maya looked at him. "I won't tell her to read it," she said. "But I'll make sure she knows it's there." "Thank you," he said, voice low. Before he left, he knelt in the driveway to tie Sophie's shoelace, then hugged Marcus without prompting. No theatrics, just simple gestures. He didn't ask to stay. He didn't linger. That night, Maya handed the envelope to Emma. She read the name, ran her fingers along the edge. "I'll decide when," she said. "That's your right," Maya replied. Emma didn't open it that night, or the next, but she placed it beside her journal, not hidden, just waiting. August brought slow mornings, soft light through windows, and a sense of something nearing completion. Not an ending, exactly, more like the final bend in a long, winding road. Maya walked the garden at Compass in the early hours. The herbs were thriving, the gravel paths swept, the circle stones warm from days of sun. She passed the talking bench and sat down. It had become her favorite spot, not because it held answers, but because it invited presence. Across the circle, a teenage girl sat sketching in a notebook. Maya recognized her from a recent program, shy, quiet, fiercely observant. When their eyes met, the girl offered a small nod. And no words, just connection. Sometimes that was enough. On the first Friday of August, Maya hosted an open house at Compass. It wasn't formal, a few food trucks, music under the trees, chalk art stations for kids. Families came and went, staff mingled. The garden glowed under the soft strings of lights. Toward the end of the night, Maya found herself standing beside Dr. Kim near the fire circle. "You've built something that doesn't pretend to fix people," Dr. Kim said. "You've built a place where people can be broken out loud." Maya looked around. "I think sometimes that's all we really need. Space to name what hurts, and know it won't be used against us. More rare than it should be," Dr. Kim murmured. They stood in silence for a while. The fire burned low. The stars began to show. Later that night, Maya sat alone in the backyard, the soft buzz of August insects rising from the trees. The kids had gone to sleep. Cooper curled at her feet. She thought about what was next, not in fear or in preparation for conflict, but with curiosity. The Compass Project had several new programs launching in the fall. A family tech detox weekend, a father-daughter reconnect series, a grief storytelling workshop. Emma would start her junior year. Marcus was signed up for a woodworking mentorship. Sophie had already picked out her Halloween costume. Normalcy wasn't the absence of trouble. It was the presence of something else, resilience, capacity, grace. Maya opened her notebook one last time that summer. She flipped past pages filled with notes, case summaries, timelines, and plans. Pages marked with fear and hope and strategy. She found a blank page at the back and wrote, "Truth held, trust built, love chosen." She closed the notebook, locked the drawer, and went upstairs to sleep. Outside, a breeze moved through the trees. Inside, every window was open. September arrived with its usual grace, golden leaves skimming gutters, mist on the river, the clean scent of sharpened pencils and possibility. Maya stood at the kitchen counter. One morning, packing lunchboxes with a rhythm that now felt light, unburdened. No longer an act of survival, just care. Emma was back in school, a junior now, more focused than ever. Her Seattle experience had deepened something in her, a willingness to be vulnerable, but also unflinching in what she asked from the world. Marcus had joined the school's maker club and already talked about building a small greenhouse in the backyard. Sophie was finally tying her shoes without help and insisted on adding her own note to every lunch Maya packed. Today's note said, "Don't forget to smile. It's my favorite thing you wear." Maya tucked it into Sophie's lunchbox and smiled. A T compass. The pace picked up. The space was alive with motion, chalk dust from kids' art sessions, the aroma of baking bread from the community kitchen, the hum of difficult conversations carried in soft, steady voices across the garden. Diana Martinez was piloting a co-parenting dialogue series, inviting parents to sit in a shared space without the courtroom looming. It was cautious, imperfect, and deeply needed. Maya sat in the back of one session unnoticed. Two parents sat across from each other, guarded but willing. A woman with tired eyes, a man who kept twisting his wedding ring even though it clearly no longer fit. "I don't want to win anymore," the woman said. "I just want to stop feeling like I'm losing every day." It was enough to make Maya close her eyes, not in despair, in recognition. That evening, after the kids went to bed, Maya poured herself a glass of wine and walked out to the garden. The moon hung low over the rooftops, casting soft shadows across the stones. She sat on the bench and pulled out her phone. There was a message from Carmen. "Oregon Family Journal just accepted your op-ed. Publishing next month. Congratulations." Maya, "It's going to help a lot of people." Maya read the message twice, then tapped open the draft she'd written weeks ago. A piece titled, "What Custody Can't Measure." She reread the last paragraph. "There's no custody ruling that guarantees safety, no visitation schedule that teaches grace. But there is this, the quiet power of showing up, not to control or fix, but to stay, to bear witness, to tell the truth, even when the system doesn't ask you to." She hit send. Some stories didn't need retelling, but they deserved to be heard. Sunday brought an unexpected call. Nathan. His voice was calm, clear, still, slightly awkward around the edges, but no longer defensive. "I wanted to ask something," he said. "It's not about custody or time. I want to know if you'd consider letting me co-sponsor one of the programs at Compass." Quietly, financially. Maya said nothing. For a moment, he went on. "I'm not trying to insert myself. Compass helped me too. Not because I attended anything, but because it exists. Because it helped my kids." Maya breathed in. "What made you ask now?" "I read Emma's essay," he said softly. "She sent it to me. She said it wasn't for approval, just honesty." Maya closed her eyes. "That sounded like Emma. I'll think about it," she said. "Thank you." He didn't ask for more, and that too meant something. The next week, Emma was asked to speak at a student-led assembly on the theme of truth and resilience. She practiced her speech in the living room, with Marcus timing her and Sophie holding up cue cards that read things like "You rock" and "Breathe." Maya sat in the armchair, watching her daughter stand at the front of the room as if it were a stage. "I used to think truth was something sharp," Emma said aloud, "like a tool or a weapon. But now I know it's more like water. It wears away what doesn't belong. It makes space. It reflects." Maya wiped her eyes discreetly. Emma saw, but didn't mention it. That Friday evening, as the sun dipped below the trees and Cooper curled on the porch step, Maya pulled out her notebook again. Not the old one, the heavy, filled journal from her courtroom days, but a new one. Lighter, clean. On the first page she wrote, "September threshold. We are not just survivors. We are builders." Then below that, in smaller print, "This time, the story starts with us." She closed the notebook and looked out across the yard. Emma was stringing lights across the deck. Marcus had a tape measure in hand, helping. Sophie danced barefoot through the grass, humming something Maya couldn't quite make out. The world wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and that, Maya knew, would always be enough. Autumn settled into Portland with quiet certainty. The early mornings were cooler now, dewdrops on the Compass garden leaves, a sharp breeze through open windows that carried the scent of pine and fading roses. Maya stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the neighborhood stir to life. It was the last Saturday of September. School was in full swing. Compass had a wait list, and Maya felt the subtle shift of her life rounding another corner, this time without dread, without resistance. Inside, Emma was helping Sophie finish a diorama for her third-grade science project. Maya could hear them arguing over the placement of a plastic volcano. It doesn't need to be in the middle, Sophie declared. But the crater aligns with your water source, Emma said gently. It tells the story better. Maya smiled, listening, not because the moment was perfect, but because it was theirs. Later that morning, Maya hosted a Compass volunteer brunch. The fire circle was lit, tea and muffins set out, and people filtered in slowly. Board members, therapists, social workers, parents who had stayed to help. Nathan came too. He didn't speak, didn't make himself the center of anything. He simply stood near the garden with a rake, clearing fallen leaves. Diana came over, eyeing him briefly. He's quieter now, she said. He's learning, Maya replied. Diana looked at her. Do you ever worry it's not enough? Maya thought for a moment. I did, but now I think enough isn't the point. It's what comes next that matters. That evening, after the brunch and after the house had gone still, Maya sat in her home office sorting through a small wooden box. Inside were keepsakes, court documents, now closed, drawings from the kids, and the old notebook that had once held her plans and her fears. She pulled out a folded piece of paper, one she hadn't looked at in months. It was a list, written in her own hand the night after Nathan had told her he didn't want the kids. Keep calm, record everything, protect them without poisoning them, tell the truth. Even if no one asks, she'd done those things, but she'd also done more. She'd helped her children become their own protectors. She'd shown them what it meant to face the worst with grace, and the best with humility. And now, she was finally ready to let that list go. Maya slipped the paper into the fireplace and watched it catch. Some truths weren't meant to be archived, some were meant to be released. The next day, Marcus approached her in the kitchen holding a sketch. I've been designing the greenhouse, he said, shy but proud. I researched how to build a hydroponic bed. Maya examined the drawing. This is amazing. You thought through light, ventilation, even material costs. He beamed. I want it to go in the back corner, near the fence. Quiet but strong. Like Emma said. Like you too, Maya said, kissing the top of his head. She looked at the design again. It wasn't just a structure. It was growth made visible. That week, Emma received an email from the Regional Youth Writing Network. Her essay had been selected for publication in a national anthology. Her mentor added a note. Some people write for recognition. You write for revelation. Emma read it aloud at the dinner table. Marcus whooped. Sophie clapped. Maya blinked back. Tears. Can I read it at the next Compass event? Emma asked. I think it might help someone else say what they haven't been able to. Yes, Maya said. That's exactly what stories are for. On the final Friday of September, the Compass circle filled with candles. A twilight gathering. No agenda, just space. Each person was invited to bring a word written on a slip of paper, something they were releasing, or something they were stepping into. When it came time for Maya, she stood and walked to the fire pit. She dropped in her word, control. She watched the flame curl around it. Then she whispered, I choose presence. Around the circle, others nodded, and the air shifted, less burdened, more alive. Later that night, back home, Emma knocked gently on Maya's door. Can I show you something? She held out the letter Nathan had written weeks earlier. I read it, she said, and I think I'm ready to write him back. Maya took a breath, nodded. Would you like me to help? No, Emma said, but I wanted you to know. She smiled. It doesn't feel like the end of anything, just the edge of the map, the part where we draw our own shapes. Maya felt her chest ache with pride. Draw boldly, she whispered. Emma turned to go, and Maya stayed, sitting on the edge of her bed, watching the night press against the window. There were no more papers to file, and no more lines to draw in sand, only paths, and they were hers. To walk now, with eyes wide open and the truth steady at her side. October in Portland whispered in shades of copper and rust. The trees shed their leaves like slow confessions, one branch at a time. The air, crisp and clean, seemed to invite closure, not the kind defined by courts or documents, but the kind that grows inside when the story you feared ends without destroying you. Maya stood before the completed Compass greenhouse, arms crossed over her jacket, heart steady. Marcus stood beside her, his chin lifted. You built this, she said. Marcus shook his head. We did. The wooden sign above the entrance bore a single word in carefully etched letters, root. Inside the Compass main hall, preparations were underway for the center's first full-year celebration. Maya had insisted it be called a milestone, not a gala. There would be no speeches, no awards, just music, food, and people gathered under lights they'd strung themselves. Emma was handling invitations. Marcus had organized a community photo wall. Sophie had decorated dozens of name tags with pressed leaves and watercolor borders. It was strange, Maya thought, how something born in grief could yield such joy. The day before the celebration, Maya received a package in the mail. There was no return address. Inside, she found a hardbound book, a copy of the youth anthology that featured Emma's essay. Tucked inside was a small note in Emma's handwriting. Thought you should have your own. Page 47. Maya turned to it and read, "My mother once said truth was like light, it finds cracks, not to break you, but to show you what's already been waiting to grow." She closed the book gently, holding it against her chest. That night, Nathan texted, "Thank you for letting me show up tomorrow. I'll stay out of the way, but I want the kids to see me witness what you've built." Maya stared at the message for a moment. She typed, "You're not a guest. You're part of their story too. Just be present." "That's enough," he replied with a single word, "understood." The morning of the milestone dawned, foggy but bright. Volunteers arrived early. Maya walked the grounds slowly, taking it all in. The tables arranged in a wide half circle, the fire pit prepared for the twilight lighting, the open benches beneath the maples. As people began to arrive, she noticed something subtle but powerful. No one waited to be welcomed. They stepped in as if they belonged, because they did. Emma stood by the entrance, handing out programs. Marcus helped an elderly couple find seats. Sophie ran between the garden and the craft table, directing guests with the confidence of a tiny mayor. And then Nathan arrived. He came alone, hands in his pockets, posture open but uncertain. When he saw Maya, he paused. She nodded once. He nodded back. That was all it needed to be. As twilight settled and the fire pit was lit, Maya stepped forward not to speak, but to read a line from a poem Emma had chosen for the occasion. She held the paper gently, voice steady. "We are not what broke us. We are what we chose to build when no one was watching." Then she stepped back and let the silence hold. It was the loudest truth she had ever spoken. After the event, as people began to gather, their coats and hugs were exchanged in quiet tones. Nathan approached her near the herb garden. "I wanted to say," he began, "not thank you, but I'm sorry. For all the time I mistook silence for safety. You showed them something I didn't know how to." Maya looked at him not as an adversary, but as a man who had once been lost in the same storm she'd weathered. "You're here now," she said. He nodded. "And I'll keep showing up, whether or not anyone sees it." "Good," she said. "Because they always do." They parted without ceremony. Closure, Maya had learned, wasn't a full stop. It was the choice to turn the page without needing the previous one erased. That night, back at home, Maya tucked Sophie into bed. The little girl clutched a compass charm one of the volunteers had given her. "Will it help me find things?" she asked. "Yes," Maya whispered, "especially if what you're looking for is already inside you." Sophie smiled, sleepy. "I think that's where I keep all the good stuff." Maya kissed her forehead. "That's where I keep mine too." Later, as the house quieted, Maya stepped onto the back porch. The sky was clear, stars beginning to blink awake. The greenhouse stood solid in the yard, lights softly glowing from within. She felt no urgency, no edge of waiting. She simply stood, breathing in the night, knowing this was what truth made possible, not perfection, but peace, and the foundation for what came next. The week following the compass milestone felt like a quiet echo, moments reverberating with the warmth of closure, but also with new rhythms forming underneath. The kids returned to school. The autumn wind began to scatter the first brittle leaves across the front yard, and Maya moved more slowly through each day, not out of fatigue, but from presence. She had, for the first time in years, nowhere urgent to be. Compass. The rhythm settled too. The post-event rush had passed, and now the center moved with the confidence of something real. Staff coordinated fall programming. Alex finalized the grant proposals. Dr. Kim started a pilot therapy series on forgiveness, not for the sake of others, but for oneself. Maya spent time in the garden, pruning, planting bulbs, preparing the space for rest. The quiet act of tending to something not yet blooming felt like an act of faith. and she had more faith now than she had in a long time. Emma began writing a new essay. This time, it wasn't about trauma or testimony. It was about reinvention. About who you become when your survival no longer defines you. It doesn't feel like a climax, she told Maya one afternoon. It feels like the steady middle. Like we made it past the part that tests you and now we're in the part that lets you build. Maya smiled. That's where most of life happens, Em. The story doesn't end after the turning point. It grows. I think I want to call it the long light, Emma said, tilting her head. Because that's what it feels like. Not blinding. Just steady. Maya repeated the phrase under her breath. The long light. She liked that. On a rainy Thursday, Nathan showed up again. He brought Sophie a book on constellations and helped Marcus calibrate the small greenhouse thermometer. There was no agenda, no performance. He stayed for dinner not because anyone invited him, but because no one asked him to leave afterward. Maya walked him to the porch. She's forgiven you, you know, she said, glancing toward where Sophie was curled up on the couch. Nathan nodded. I know. And Emma, she's made her terms clear. I respect them. And Marcus? Maya asked. Nathan sighed. He's still watching me, but he's not afraid anymore. That's a start. It's enough, he replied, meaning it. He started down the steps, then turned. I read your article, by the way. Maya's eyebrows lifted. I thought it might sting, but it didn't. It just made sense. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. They both understood what it meant to carry the truth with dignity. October passed quietly. Halloween arrived, and Sophie's Space Explorer librarian costume was a hit at school. Marcus helped build a rocket-shaped candy chute for the front porch. Emma walked the neighborhood with friends, then came home early to help Maya hand out candy. They sat together on the steps, wrapped in a blanket, sipping cider. You ever think about what you would have done differently? Emma asked. Maya considered it. I think I would have stopped waiting for someone to give me permission to act. I thought if I stayed calm, the system would fix itself, but it wasn't broken in a way calm could solve. Emma nodded. So you built something else. Maya looked out over the yard. And I kept building, even when it hurt, especially then, Emma said. They sat in silence for a long, momentous November approached. Compass prepared for winter. They launched a story, Stone's Project, where families decorated smooth river rocks with words that symbolized their season. Maya's rock said, anchor. Emma's said, light. Marcus chose, pattern. Sophie said, big feelings. The rocks were placed along the garden path, a trail of truths left behind by those brave enough to name them. One morning, as frost silvered the lawn, Maya opened her email to find a message from the Oregon Family Journal editor. Your piece has been nominated for a regional award. We'll be featuring it again next quarter with an interview. If you're open to it. She stared at the screen. Once, such recognition would have felt like vindication. Now, it simply felt like affirmation that her quiet resistance, her refusal to twist the truth or weaponize her pain, had found resonance. She replied, yes. And thank you for giving that kind of voice a place. The first snow came early that year. It dusted the compass garden lightly, clinging to the herbs and stones and woodwork like lace. Sophie stood at the window watching it fall. Do you think the garden is sleeping? She asked. I think it's resting, Maya said, so it can grow again when it's ready. Sophie nodded, wise beyond her years. Like us. Maya pulled her close. Exactly like us. That evening, Maya journaled one last entry before the year's end. She didn't write goals or resolutions, just a short note. You told the truth. You stood still. You were seen. Now, keep growing. She closed the journal. Outside, the long light of early winter spilled through the windows. Inside, the house was warm, and Maya, at last, was home. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.